Stop scrolling for just a moment, because the ordinary coins sitting in American homes right now may be hiding a story that most people completely miss. Welcome back to Hidden Coin Millions, where we uncover the coins that can turn an everyday pocket find into a collector's dream. Today, we are looking at 4 ultra-rare and highly valuable Roosevelt dimes and memorial pennies, and one tiny detail on the surface of a coin can completely change the way collectors look at it. And here is the frightening part. Some people may have handled coins like these for years without ever realizing what they were holding. So before you spend, exchange, or ignore another old coin, check it carefully. Stay with me until the end, because every coin in today's countdown has a different story, a different clue, and a different reason collectors pay close attention. This is Hidden Coin Millions, freshly updated every single day. And today we are opening the door to another hidden treasure. Coin number 1. We are looking at a Roosevelt dime from 1957 with a D mint mark, showing a dark black layer on the reverse and black dots with the older circulated appearance described for this example. At first glance, someone unfamiliar with collectible coins might simply see an old dime with signs of age. But when you are hunting for valuable coins, the first rule is simple. Never judge an old coin only by its appearance. This Roosevelt dime belongs to an important chapter in American coinage history. The Roosevelt dime series began in the 1940s, created to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt after his death. The design placed Roosevelt's portrait on the obverse, while the reverse carries the torch surrounded by an olive branch and an oak branch. Those symbols are not random decoration. They represent ideas connected with liberty, peace, and strength, giving this small 10-cent coin a surprisingly powerful piece of American history. By 1957, the United States Mint was producing enormous numbers of circulating coins to meet everyday demand. The D mint mark identifies the Denver Mint, making that tiny letter one of the first things a collector should examine when checking an older Roosevelt dime. On a coin this small, that little mark can be easy to overlook, but for collectors, tiny details are exactly where the investigation begins. And now, look at the composition. The classic Roosevelt dimes of this era were made from a silver alloy, rather than the copper-nickel composition used for later circulating Roosevelt dimes. That means an example from this period is not simply an ordinary 10-cent piece in the historical sense. Its metal composition, age, design, mint origin, and surviving condition all contribute to the story collectors see when they examine it. But here is where today's example becomes especially fascinating. You described this 1957 with D Roosevelt dime as having a black layer on the reverse, black dots, and an old circulated condition. Those surface characteristics should immediately make a serious collector slow down and inspect the coin rather than casually dismiss it. Dark toning, environmental discoloration, accumulated surface deposits, and other forms of aging can dramatically change the appearance of an old silver coin. The important question is not simply, why does it look dark? The real question is, what exactly caused that appearance, and what is underneath it? That is why collectors examine the reverse as carefully as the front. They look at the lettering, the torch, the branches, the date, the mint mark, the rims, and the overall surface. They are searching for unusual characteristics, preservation clues, errors, varieties, or other details that could separate an ordinary surviving example from a more desirable collectible specimen. And remember this, age alone does not automatically make every old coin rare. What creates collector interest is the combination of date, mint mark, condition, surface characteristics, authenticity, scarcity, and documented demand. That is exactly why you should never clean a potentially collectible coin just because it has dark spots or an aged appearance. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surface and may destroy characteristics collectors actually want to preserve. For anyone hunting through an old collection, inherited coin box, forgotten drawer, or jar of change, this is where patience becomes your greatest advantage. Use good lighting. Examine both sides. Look closely at the mint mark. Compare the details with reliable references. And if something looks unusual, have the coin professionally evaluated instead of making a quick decision. Now comes the moment everyone has been waiting for. For the 1957 Roosevelt dime with a D mint mark, black layer on the reverse, black dots, and the old circulated condition described for this example, the current market value being used for this video is $800. $800. That is the number attached to the exact condition and description you provided for this coin. And that is why a small piece of American pocket change can suddenly become a serious collector conversation. Imagine discovering that the coin you nearly ignored deserves a much closer look. That is the excitement behind the hunt, not because every old dime is automatically a fortune, but because one overlooked detail can make an ordinary-looking coin worth far more to the right collector. And remember, collector markets can change over time. A coin's future value may rise or fall depending on rarity, authentication, condition, demand, and the prices buyers are actually willing to pay. So don't treat any coin as guaranteed overnight wealth. Treat it as a potential piece of history that deserves careful examination. My biggest tip for collectors is simple. Don't rush, don't clean, and don't assume. Preserve the coin exactly as you found it. Photograph both sides, record the date and mint mark, and seek a qualified professional opinion if the coin appears unusual. Sometimes the smallest details are the ones that deserve the biggest attention. So if you have a 1957 Roosevelt dime with that tiny D mint mark, go back and look at it again. Check the reverse. Study those dark areas. Inspect the details. Because the thrill of coin collecting is not knowing what you will discover until you actually look. And this is only coin number 1. We still have 3 more Roosevelt dimes and memorial pennies coming up, and the next coin brings another completely different story. So don't leave now. Keep your eyes open. Keep your old coins nearby. And remember, Hidden Coin Millions is freshly updated every day with more unbelievable coin discoveries, collector clues, and hidden treasure stories. Coin number 2. We are talking about a Roosevelt dime from 1949 with an S mint mark, showing black and brown spots and the almost fine condition you described. And before you make the mistake of looking at those dark surfaces and thinking this is simply an old, worn dime, stop right there, because the 1949 with S Roosevelt dime is one of the more closely watched dates in the early Silver Roosevelt series. The story begins in the years immediately following the introduction of the Roosevelt dime. The series started in 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and the design was created by United States Mint Chief Engraver John R. Sinnock. On the front, Roosevelt's portrait dominates the coin, while the reverse presents the torch, olive branch, and oak branch. It is a remarkably detailed design for such a small piece of American currency, and every surviving example carries a little piece of that post-war American history. But coin number 2 has another detail that immediately demands attention, that tiny S mint mark. That S tells us this dime was struck at the San Francisco Mint, and this is not a detail collectors casually ignore. The 1949 with S had a mintage of only 510,000 pieces, making it the second lowest mintage regular circulation Roosevelt dime of the silver era, behind the 1955 Philadelphia issue. specifically identifies the 1949 with S as a key date and notes its unusually low mintage. Now think about what that means. More than 70 years have passed since these dimes entered American commerce. Millions of people handled them. Millions were spent, saved, misplaced, damaged, melted, or simply forgotten. Every decade that passes changes the population of surviving coins. And when collectors search for early Roosevelt dimes today, they are not merely looking for something old. They are looking for the right date, the right mint mark, the right surfaces, and the right condition. And this coin has another major historical advantage. The 1949 with S Roosevelt dime was made from 90% silver and 10% copper, with a weight of 2.50 grams and a diameter of 17.90 millimeters. That silver composition applies to Roosevelt dimes dated 1946 through 1964. So when you hold a genuine 1949 with S in your hand, you're holding more than a 10-cent denomination. You're holding an early American silver coin from the first decade of the Roosevelt dime series. And now we get to the appearance of today's example. You described this coin as having black and brown spots with an almost fine condition. Those colors immediately give the coin an aged, historic appearance. But here's the important collector mindset. Do not rush to remove those surfaces. Dark toning and discoloration can occur for many reasons, and collectors need to distinguish natural aging from environmental damage, staining, residue, or other surface problems. A coin that looks unusual should be examined carefully before anyone attempts cleaning or alteration. The reverse deserves special attention. Look at the torch. Look at the lettering. Look at the olive and oak branches. Study the rim and the fields. Then move back to the obverse and inspect Roosevelt's portrait, the date, and the mint mark area. Even on a circulated example, the remaining detail can tell you a great deal about how much wear the coin has experienced. And there is something else that makes this date exciting. The 1949 with S is not simply interesting because someone on the internet says it is rare. Professional numismatic references actually recognize its importance within the Roosevelt dime series, lists the mintage at 13.51 million and identifies it as having the second lowest mintage among the circulation strike silver Roosevelt dimes. Coin Week likewise describes it as a key date and notes that it can command a premium over basic silver value even in circulated grades. That is exactly the kind of information a serious coin hunter wants to know. Because the real treasure is not simply finding an old coin. The real treasure is finding an old coin whose date, mint mark, composition, condition, and collector demand all come together. And that is why I want everyone watching this video to remember something. If you discover a 1949 with S Roosevelt dime, don't immediately throw it into a pile with ordinary change. Separate it, protect it, examine it, compare it with trusted references. And if the coin appears especially unusual or valuable, professional authentication and grading can make a huge difference in establishing exactly what you have. Now comes the moment we've been building toward. For the 1949 with S Roosevelt dime with the black and brown spots and almost fine condition described for this example, the current market value being used for this video is $970. Yes, $970. That is the current price figure you provided for this specific coin description. And that is the value we are assigning to this example in today's video. But remember, actual coin market prices can vary according to authentication, grading, exact preservation, eye appeal, and the buyer or auction involved. Published guides show a broad range for 1949 with S examples, with much higher prices reached by exceptional certified specimens. Still, $970 is a powerful number to attach to a tiny 10-cent piece. Think about the excitement of opening an old collection and seeing that little S beside the date. Suddenly, you are no longer looking at an ordinary dime. You are looking at a coin from a low mintage year, made from 90% silver, carrying more than 7 decades of American history, and recognized by collectors as an important early Roosevelt date. And this is exactly why I always tell coin hunters, never underestimate the small coins. A coin doesn't need to be large to carry a big story. It doesn't need to shine like it just left the mint to deserve attention. Sometimes an aged surface, an old date, and one tiny mint mark are enough to make you stop and investigate. If you have old Roosevelt dimes at home, now is the time to start looking through them. Check the dates. Check those mint marks. Look carefully at the surfaces. Keep your valuable-looking coins separate and never clean them simply because they appear dark or dirty. Preservation is part of the treasure. And remember, the market can change. Collector demand can change. Exceptional examples can attract strong competition. So when you discover a potentially important coin, don't rush to sell it just because someone gives you a quick number. Learn what you have first, because coin number 2 has just shown us something incredible. A tiny Roosevelt dime can carry a low mintage history, a precious metal composition, and serious collector interest all at the same time. And don't forget, this is Hidden Coin Millions, and our channel is freshly updated every single day with more rare US coins, hidden treasures, collector discoveries, and unbelievable stories hiding behind ordinary-looking change. But we're not finished. This is only coin number 2. 2 coins are down, and 2 more are still waiting. So keep watching, because the next coin could reveal another detail that completely changes the way you look at the old coins sitting around your home. Don't spend it. Don't ignore it. Check it, because the next hidden treasure could already be in your collection. Coin number 3. We're leaving the Roosevelt dime series and moving into one of the most recognizable American coins ever made, the Lincoln Memorial penny. But don't let the word penny make you underestimate what you're looking at. Today's coin is a 1988 with D Lincoln Memorial cent, with a D mint mark, a brown layer, black spots around the surfaces and edges, and the dirty, aged condition you described. At first glance, it may look like exactly the kind of coin someone would toss into a jar and forget about. But when you're searching for unusual coins, that is precisely when you should slow down. Because sometimes the most interesting discoveries are hiding behind the coins nobody bothers to inspect. The 1988 Lincoln Memorial cent belongs to the final decades of the famous memorial reverse design. The Lincoln cent had already been an American icon for generations, but the memorial design had its own special place in U.S. history. Frank Gasparo designed the Lincoln Memorial reverse, showing the memorial building behind Lincoln's portrait in miniature form. That design remained on the cent from 1959 until 2008, meaning the 1988 D penny is part of a long-running chapter in American coinage. And then there is that tiny D. That single letter tells us the coin was produced at the Denver Mint. The 1988 with D issue had a reported mintage of 5,253, 740,443 pieces, so this was certainly not a low mintage issue in the traditional sense. But here's where the collector hunt becomes much more interesting. Large production numbers do not mean every surviving example is identical. Collectors still examine these cents for condition, unusual surfaces, die characteristics, varieties, and minting errors. And this is exactly where you should put your attention. Look carefully at the date. Look underneath for the D mint mark. Then turn the coin over and examine the memorial reverse. Look at the lettering, the columns, the building details, the rim, and the surrounding fields. After that, inspect the edges and both sides under strong lighting. The reason is simple. A coin's story is often hidden in the smallest details. Now let's talk about composition, because this coin belongs to an important transition in American cent history. Unlike the older copper Lincoln cents produced before 1982, the 1988 with D cent was made from a copper-plated zinc composition. Its core is zinc with a thin copper coating. The standard specifications are approximately 19 millimeters in diameter and 2.50 grams in weight, with the coin carrying the familiar plain edge. That composition matters when you're examining the brown layer and black spots described on today's example. A copper-plated zinc cent can develop different surface appearances as it ages. Brown coloration can be associated with the changing appearance of the copper surface, while dark spots can come from environmental exposure, staining, corrosion, or other forms of surface alteration. So if you discover a coin with unusual dark areas, don't immediately assume that the discoloration itself proves rarity. Instead, investigate it. That is the collector's mindset. And there is another reason to examine the 1988 with D carefully. This date is known in the numismatic world for recognized varieties. Catalogs multiple major varieties for the 1988 with D cent, including brown, red-brown, and red designations, and also lists the flared GFS 901 die variety. That means your inspection should not stop at the color. Look at the lettering. Look at the initials. Look at the reverse details. Look for characteristics that appear different from a normal example. And most importantly, don't start scrubbing the coin. This is one of the biggest mistakes inexperienced collectors can make. A dirty-looking coin can tempt someone to polish it until it shines. But altering the original surface can permanently change the coin and potentially destroy information that a professional grader or collector would want to examine. When you believe you've found something unusual, preservation comes before cleaning. Now think about what makes this particular example exciting for our countdown. You described a 1988 with D memorial penny with a brown layer, black spots, darkened edges, and a dirty condition. Those characteristics give it a distinctive aged appearance, and that means the coin deserves a careful inspection before anyone decides what it is worth. The key is to separate three different things: the normal characteristics of the date and mint, the condition of the individual coin, and any genuine variety or minting anomaly that might be present. That is where the real treasure hunt begins. Because finding a 1988 with D penny is easy. Finding a 1988 with D penny with something genuinely unusual about it is where the excitement starts. And if you're searching through old jars, inherited collections, boxes of coins, or forgotten change, this is exactly the kind of date you should examine carefully rather than automatically dismissing it. Now comes the moment you've been waiting for. For the 1988 with D memorial penny, with the brown layer, black spots and edges, and dirty condition described for this example, the current market value being used for this video is $350. Yes, $350. That is the price figure you provided for this exact example and condition description. But I want you to understand something important. The ordinary 1988 with D cent is generally a very common coin, and published references show dramatically lower values for typical circulated examples. The major premium in this date generally comes from exceptional condition or a recognized variety or error, not simply from age or dark coloration. So if your coin is being represented at $350, that figure should be treated as the stated current value for the specific example in this video, not as a guarantee that every 1988D penny is worth hundreds of dollars. And that's actually what makes the search so exciting. You don't need to believe that every penny is a hidden fortune. You need to understand that the details matter. A tiny mint mark, a strange surface, an unusual die characteristic, an important variety, exceptional preservation. One small difference can completely change the conversation surrounding a coin. So here's my collector tip for coin number 3. If you have a 1988 with D. Lincoln Memorial penny, take a clear look at both sides before spending it. Use good lighting. Check the D mint mark. Examine the memorial reverse carefully. Inspect the lettering and the edges. Compare the coin with trusted references. And if you see a genuine variety or unusual minting feature, consider having it professionally authenticated. Don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't scratch it. And don't throw it back into circulation until you know exactly what you're looking at. Because the greatest mistake a coin hunter can make is not failing to find a rare coin. It's finding something important and never realizing it. And that's why this little 1988 with D Memorial penny deserves its place in today's hunt. The coin may be small, the denomination may be only 1 cent, but the history behind it is enormous, and the possibility of discovering an unusual example is exactly what keeps collectors searching. This is Hidden Coin Millions, freshly updated every single day, bringing you more rare US coins, hidden discoveries, collector clues, and unbelievable stories from the world of American coin collecting. We've already uncovered 2 fascinating Roosevelt dimes, and now this memorial penny has entered the countdown. But don't go anywhere. Coin number 4 is still waiting, and we're saving the final reveal for the end. So check those old coins, keep your eyes sharp, and remember one rule above everything else. Coin number 4. We are looking at a 1982 Lincoln Memorial penny with no mint mark, showing black and brown spots and the fine condition you described. And before you dismiss it as another ordinary penny, pay very close attention, because 1982 was not an ordinary year for the Lincoln cent. It was the year the United States Mint transitioned from the traditional copper composition to copper-plated zinc, creating multiple combinations of composition and date varieties within the same year. That means the date 1982 itself should immediately make a coin hunter slow down. For decades, Lincoln cents had been made primarily from bronze, but rising copper prices created a serious problem for the mint. The metal itself was becoming increasingly expensive compared with the coin's 1 cent denomination. The solution was a major composition change. The mint began moving toward a copper-plated zinc cent, reducing the weight from approximately 3.11 grams to 2.5 grams. And that's where the story becomes exciting. A 1982 cent can potentially be identified by both its date style and its composition. The year produced large date and small date varieties, while Philadelphia issues carried no mint mark. Identifies the 1982 Philadelphia issues in both large date and small date forms, and the year also includes bronze and copper-plated zinc examples. So when you see a 1982 penny without a mint mark, don't just look at the number. Look at the date itself. Look at the size and shape of the numerals. Then, look at the coin's weight if you have an accurate scale. This is one of those years when a tiny difference can completely change what collectors are investigating. And there is an even bigger reason serious collectors pay attention to 1982. The year produced several distinct combinations of date style, composition, and mint. NGC lists the major circulating varieties, including 1982 large date bronze, 1982 small date bronze, 1982 large date zinc, and 1982 small date zinc, along with the corresponding Denver varieties. That is an incredible amount of variety packed into a single year. Now turn your attention to today's specific example. You described this penny as having black and brown spots and a fine condition. Those dark surfaces immediately give the coin an aged appearance. But remember, the spots themselves do not automatically establish rarity. A serious collector wants to know what produced the coloration and whether the underlying coin has an identifiable variety, unusual composition, or genuine minting characteristic. This is why lighting matters. Hold the coin beneath the bright light. Examine Lincoln's portrait. Study the date. Look at the reverse and inspect the Lincoln Memorial. Check the lettering, the rim, and the overall surface. If the coin appears unusually dark, resist the temptation to polish it. Do not clean it. That advice is extremely important. Cleaning, polishing, or chemically treating an old coin can alter its original surface and potentially reduce its collector appeal. If you think your 1982 cent may be unusual, preserve it exactly as you found it and investigate it before doing anything to the surface. And here is one of the most fascinating facts about this particular year. The transition between bronze and copper-plated zinc created some extraordinary varieties and errors. NGC has documented a unique 1982 with D small date bronze cent, an example that was previously unknown and was certified as a mint error. Now, your coin has no mint mark, so that specific famous Denver transitional error is not what we're describing here. But it proves something extremely important. 1982 is a year that deserves serious examination. The treasure hunt is not simply about finding the oldest penny. It is about understanding what happened at the mint during that year and recognizing the differences that collectors search for. And that's why I want everyone watching this to remember the following. If you have a 1982 Lincoln Memorial cent without a mint mark, don't automatically assume it is just another common penny. Check the date style. Consider the weight. Examine the surface. Compare the coin against reliable references. And if you believe you have an unusual composition or recognize variety, professional authentication can be extremely valuable. Now, let's get to the moment you've been waiting for. For the 1982 Lincoln Memorial penny, with no mint mark, black and brown spots, and fine condition described for this example, the current market value being used for this video is $400. Yes, $400. That is the price figure you provided for this exact coin description, and that is the value we are using for this video. But here's an important collector distinction. Published price guides show that ordinary 1982 Philadelphia cents can be worth far less than hundreds of dollars, while specific varieties, unusual compositions, errors, and exceptional certified examples can command dramatically different prices. NGC's current guide separates the 1982 large date and small date issues and their different compositions, demonstrating just how important identification is for this year. So if someone finds a 1982 no mint mark penny, the correct reaction is not automatically, "I found $400. The correct reaction is, "I found a 1982, now I need to find out exactly which 1982 I have." And that is the difference between casually collecting coins and actually hunting them. Because this little penny carries a major chapter in American coinage history. It represents the transition away from the traditional bronze cent, the introduction of copper-plated zinc, and a fascinating collection of large date and small date varieties. And when you add the black and brown spots, the fine condition, and the age of the coin, you have an example that deserves a careful inspection rather than being thrown into an ordinary jar. My collector tip for this final coin is simple but powerful. Never clean a potentially valuable 1,982 cent. First, identify the date style. Then, check its weight if possible. Inspect the surfaces and edges under good lighting. Compare it with trusted numismatic references. If anything appears unusual, take it to a qualified coin dealer or professional grading service. And if you are searching through old American pennies right now, make 1,982 one of the dates you stop and investigate. Because this is the kind of coin that teaches you why the hunt is so addictive. 1 year, 1 tiny cent, multiple compositions, multiple date varieties, and an entire chapter of American minting history hidden inside a coin that most people would barely notice. So, if you have a 1,982 Lincoln Memorial penny with no mint mark, pull it out of your collection and take another look. Don't spend it before you understand it. Don't clean it before you identify it. And don't underestimate it simply because the denomination says 1 cent. Because sometimes the biggest discoveries begin with the smallest coins. And with that, we've reached the end of today's top 4 ultra-rare and most valuable Roosevelt dimes and memorial pennies hunt here on Hidden Coin Millions. We've examined early Roosevelt silver, low mintage history, memorial pennies, and the incredible 1,982 composition transition. And remember, our channel is freshly updated every single day, bringing you more US coin discoveries, collector clues, and hidden treasure stories. So before you leave, go check your old coin collection. Look at those dates. Look at those mint marks. Look at those unusual surfaces. And most importantly, look twice before you spend once. Because you never know when a tiny piece of American history is sitting quietly in your collection, waiting for someone to finally notice it. This is Hidden Coin Millions, where ordinary-looking coins get a second look, and every second look could reveal another hidden story.